The first thing I would say is that it takes work, and it's like anything else that you do in your career, that you need to have a very clear goal in mind, and you need to have a plan how you're going to get to achieve the new roles that you want. And it doesn't just happen. I started out doing a lot of research by talking to the people that I know. This is what I want to do. How do I go about it? What do I do? Where do I start? Who do I have to talk to? And I think I applied the way I've always done business plans for my part of, the business I ran, to say, well, this is a new market for me. Who are the clients I would like to have? How do I get time in their diaries? How do I get to meet them? What is my sort of sales pitch to get in the door? And I started to think about it in that way when it was myself that I was now selling. It didn't go well, I think. Despite having recognized that it did take work and I had to do it, I was a bit surprised that I wasn't, that people didn't say, oh, well, with this experience, this is not going to be any problem for you. The feedback I got from speaking to headhunters was, this is not easy. There are a lot of you. There are a lot of people like yourself with similar business experience and background who are looking to do these kind of roles. So this is a crowded marketplace, and this is going to be hard. And that was very disappointing, and I was quite put off for a little while by that. And I just had to, as you do when you don't win a piece of work, I just had to say, well, okay, keep going then. If that's how it is, that's how it is. So I think that was quite hard, because I did the prep, I went to see people, I thought I'd got a good story, and obviously I do have a good story, but I thought that was going to be, that once I'd got in there, I thought it was going to be, oh yes, which one would you, like to apply for? One of the things I did very early on, I got some I got some advice from somebody about my CV. And the repositioning of my CV was a complete revelation to me, because that was, again, looking at myself in a particular way. And the things that I thought were relevant and important were less relevant and less important. So I got some guidance about, well, what are people looking for? Because one of the things that I think I learned quite early on was that the headhunters kind of recognize that people who've been partners in Big Four firms are clever and good at doing things, but they don't actually think they're very good at running things. So and so the experience I had, I was surprised, and therefore had to change my CV and my approach to say, well, actually, I wasn't just doing this job because I was very good at tax or good at client relationships. I was actually running my bit of the EY business, and therefore I can bring this skill to a board and to a company. And I hadn't thought about it in that way at all. And all of the things you do as a partner when you're running a division, talent management, people development, IT, all of these kind of associated things were all very important in terms of positioning myself as somebody who would work in a boardroom, because I know how to run a business. What I found you need to do is change your CV and your experience to suit the role, because what I do think is the skills that we have and that we have learned are transferable to a board role. But I think what I would say, the first tip I would say, is think about yourself doing that role as a non-executive director, not what you're good at now, but what you need to show people you can do. So it's to try to make sure you think about yourself in a different way, recognize that the things that you've been valued for throughout your career are not necessarily top of mind in a board role, and make sure you think about the chemistry, because I think probably most people who've been in a Big Four firm or partners in law firms have clearly got the intellect and the ability to be on a board. But what really matters is how you're going to fit on that board. And that's not just the other board members, the other non-execs, but it's also the executives. And they are as important, particularly the CEO and the CFO, as your fellow board members. The only time I think I ever really overstepped the mark, the chief executive rang me and said somebody had resigned and they wanted 6 months payoff. And I said, we're not doing that. And then I said, sorry, let me rephrase that. What do you think about that then? And so I think that's quite hard to recognize that your role is not to get stuck in and get on with it, because that's what you've been paid for and that's what you've done all your career, is to sort of fix stuff. But I also think that a positive for somebody who's been in a professional services firm, one of the things about being in a partnership is the influencing in a peer culture. So we ought to be very good at influencing skills and recognize that's a very strong skill, I think, on a board, which being successful in a partnership, you've had to do all your career. I think there's a little bit of thinking, well, I've got all this expertise. Aren't they lucky they've got me? Sit back and wait for the pearls to sort of fall. But actually, you're not actually there to tell people what to do. And I think that you need to think about that skill, not just, oh, I know how to do this, X, Y, Z, because that's somebody else's job. Because the positive side of that, of course, is when you leave the meeting, you're not the one with the job list.